Hello, good morning.
Hello.
Welcome to our weekly wrap-up. Bi-weekly. We will be getting back to the weekly. So here we go. Randy just has a quick PSA.
PSA. What is PSA?
Public service announcement.
Okay. Servicing the public. So some of these questions, you guys, Jess and I talked to all of you a lot about noise and how the fitness industry, probably 80% of it is fake news, or influencers trying to just be polarizing and make stuff up and fear-mongering.
Rage bait.
So from now on, when you guys do your questions, and we're going to change it on your form, so we want to know the reason why you're asking the question. We also want these things to be personally relevant to you, or maybe like somebody else you're close to. If you were just scrolling and you saw an influencer and you saw a question, then, depending on the question, we may or may not answer, but we would respond to you personally. So we want to cut down, and actually this week, probably 85-90% of them seem like they're pretty relevant to people. So again, we want it to be relevant. We want to answer your questions. So yeah, hopefully it answers.
But we just don't want to add to
confusion.
We don't want to be part of the problem, right? We want to be part of the solution. And what I was just expressing to Randy was, I don't want this to be a thing where you guys go back and listen to it and then your head is spinning and you're like, oh my gosh, now I need to worry about this, or maybe I didn't even think of that. And that's not our goal. Our goal is to help simplify, quiet the noise, and just get you guys focusing on the things that actually matter. And sometimes I think that for me, I go big and I go broad and I want to do everything. And
then you do nothing.
And then you do nothing. And I see that a lot with clients too. And I don't want to contribute to that. So, okay, on that note, here we go.
Cool. So if you guys have questions or specifics on that, just let us know. And again, we're not going to pick on anybody. We're not going to make fun of anybody.
No.
But we just, again, what is the reason for asking the question? So there'll be the question and then the why.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Question number 1.
So, Kim, how much sodium should we have on a daily basis? I know that I'm getting some in bacon and daily mocktail. With eating pretty clean, I'm wondering if I'm getting enough these days. That's a great question.
So I want to take Kim's question and then right into Melissa's because they're very relevant.
Yes.
So, okay. So just for context, I pulled up for Kim. Kim likes to know the why.
Yeah.
So Kim, I'm going to tell you the why. Okay. So the recommended intake for adults by the American Heart Association is no more than 2,300 milligrams per day. The ideal is 1,500. And in my opinion, 1,500, unless you're somebody that doesn't really move, that's far too low. So there's your two, the recommendations. I personally don't. People who eat clean, when you don't eat processed foods or the less processed foods you eat, you have to supplement with salt, and it might just be salting every meal.
Right.
We recommend for you guys, you adding a little salt in your water, a little mocktail cocktail in the morning, to just kind of get you going. So for context, our whole body is basically an electrical machine, right? Every single time the electricity needs to fire in our body, it actually needs sodium. Mm-hmm. So salt is very, very important. And if we go back in history, very, very bad wars were fought over salt.
That's a beautiful thing.
So salt is great. Mm-hmm. We also have different tastes. I like things more salty than you do. Mm-hmm. So anyway, so there you go, Kim. That's 2,300 or 1,500. I think, and again, the processed foods is full of sodium. Unless you're salting your food and you're eating very clean, you're not getting enough sodium. So here's
context for you, though.
Yes, and here's the context. So there's a great guy out there, James DiNicolatino. He wrote
The Salt Manifesto.
The Salt Manifesto. He's been on Joe Rogan's podcast. So there you guys could go.
He's a pharmacist.
Yes, he's a pharmacist that went back and I don't know if he got his PhD or MBD, but now he does cardiac research. And he's written a couple books now. He's fantastic. If you guys want to follow people on social media, like he's actually a pretty good one. Listening to his podcast from several years ago with Joe Rogan was fantastic. So South Koreans, so here's a context. South Koreans are probably the healthiest people in Asia. They're also the tallest.
They carry the most muscle.
They carry the most muscle. Very good athletes. So now on average, this is the average South Korean, they are eating between 4,000 and 5,000 milligrams of sodium a day. Heart disease does not run rampant. They're not obese. By every health metric, they are far healthier than Americans. So I think there's a lot of electrolyte now companies, and they're putting like 1,000 milligrams in one serving. Element's one of them. I think it's 1,000 milligrams of sodium. We probably need far more sodium than what we're being told. So the whole heart, the sodium's linked to high blood pressure. But again, this is not clear. They're actually saying that sugar is probably increasing your blood pressure and actually causing endothelial damage, and then not the sodium. So when you have too much sodium, you pee it out, right? And then your blood pressure goes down. It does increase blood volume temporarily, which would make your blood pressure go up. So caffeine probably increases your blood pressure much worse than what sodium does.
Sure. So any more on that?
Yeah, two more things. Hydration. So all these people that tell you to drink lots and lots of water, you can't hydrate properly without sodium, chloride, potassium, magnesium. If you're just drinking like distilled water, which was a bodybuilder thing, you're just peeing all the time and you're not hydrated.
Yeah.
So
then this runs into Melissa's question.
But I do want to clear up one more thing.
Oh yeah.
So
I was just trying to tie it in.
We will get there. I've been trying to teach, especially with Kim, some of the things, the reference ranges and the recommendations, how they change over time. Okay. Again, they looked at blood pressure is potentially linked to heart attacks, heart disease, and sodium, because it can increase your blood pressure. So in the 1980s, the Health and Human Services recommended there was an upper limit of 3,300 milligrams. So almost about 1,000 milligrams more than what they're recommending now. So that to me is and again, if you sweat a lot, if you're an exerciser, if you're very active, if you live in a really hot place, if you do, when the heat and humidity's here and you go do hard yard work, you sweat through your shirt, you need more sodium.
Yeah.
So again, but it's also your diet. The cleaner you eat, the more you got to salt your food.
Yeah.
So that's what all I have on sodium. And then you wanted to tie in.
Well, yeah, I just wanted to tie in because Melissa was talking about leg cramps.
Correct.
Specifically calves getting leg cramps the last few days. She's heard it's a lack of potassium or calcium.
Probably not calcium.
That's what I was going to say.
But potassium, magnesium, sodium, and chloride.
Yes.
So Melissa, because she eats pretty clean, right?
She does, and she's also walking like 15,000 steps a day.
So she needs to start taking electrolyte, or
at
just
least
salting every meal. Now here's the other thing:
avocado
is good in potassium. Yeah. I think avocado has like 5 times more potassium than banana, and it doesn't have a bunch of. I find bananas to be useless. They make things taste good though. So, anyways. What was I going to say about the salt? Salt. If you the cleaner you eat, the more salt you need to take in.
Yep. Excellent.
Cool. But yes, so bacon is all processed meats are, lunch, typically most of your lunch meats, bacon, all of them have sodium as a preservative. So. Yep.
Okay. Ready?
Cool.
Okay. So an anonymous question.
No name.
No
to
name.
Be specific.
This is no name. No Name wants to know, anything to help reduce the power of PMS symptoms?
That person gave it a lot of power.
Hey, right? I've been so damn irritable this week, very reactive, but at least I know why. But knowing doesn't seem to help. Boy, isn't that the truth?
Knowing is half
You
the
cannot out-logic your rage.
Wasn't that G.I. Joe? I'm trying to think, as being a kid, knowing is half the battle. I think that was
think so,
their little mantra.
Oh yeah, that's
They didn't talk about PMS stuff though.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Moving on. Randy,
Randy,
would you like to talk about that?
The menstruation. Apparently there's a really good movie out there that says bears can smell the menstruation.
Okay, all
so
right, gross. All right, carrying on.
What can you do about it, Jess?
It's real. It's real. So actually, No Name is part of a whole group of like 10 of us that
You guys are all in sync, like the band.
we are. Oh my God.
And how weird too, because we've always heard that women, when they're close, right, their cycles sync. Yeah. But this is like remote.
Yeah.
We are on the other side of the country.
But
that is weird.
Yeah, there's about 10 of us that we're all on the same cycle right now. Mm-hmm.
It's a good thing you guys all aren't close together, or we'd have to have the red tent where there's grapes and
that
fanning.
Sounds amazing.
And you guys just take a break from all of us, men who just irritate the
I
hell
know,
out of
and then
you.
we nurture each other. Like, that's a beautiful thing. Oh, women helping women. Okay, so we actually have a hormone supplement little protocol that we put together. You might have already gotten it. If you didn't and you would like more information on it, we are more than happy to chat with you individually. I think we put 3 supplements on there, right?
Yeah, and there's 2 that we could just get away with. I mean, vitamin D is one of them.
Yes.
So what happens is hormone, and I always get it mixed up, is it progesterone drops off?
Yes.
Yeah. So progesterone is very important too. Mood balance, that's why like achiness and a lot of other things changes.
Yes.
So there's 2 supplements out there, the dim one that will just keep things more in balance.
Yeah.
And then pregnenolone, you can take it all the time or months at a time, but it's like they call it the grandfather hormone. Because if you're getting that in, then you typically have better production of all other hormones.
Yeah.
So taking that with the, and again, if you're very regular and you can see like maybe a couple days before typical, PMS symptoms start, can take these things and it should help. The ginger tea.
Yeah, ginger is a really, really helpful, easy, cheap tool. I'm always going to say start with your nutrition. So look at what you've been eating. Are you eating more sugar? Are you eating more grains? They really play a part. And if you can increase your protein, and I know, broken record, right? But increase your fat too, it really helps balance your hormones. Also, making sure that you exercise.
Yep.
I am not suggesting that, because I know a lot of us get really tired during our, right before we start our period or right when we are on. But if you can push yourself, I don't know, is that triggering to say? Well, I don't even care. Okay, you need to push yourself. We have to do hard things. And when we push ourselves and we exercise, I'm not saying kill yourself in your workout, but make yourself do it.
Get your heart rate up and
you
sweat.
will feel better.
Correct.
There's a lot of influencers and coaches out there that are like, just every single week you should be doing a different exercise, more yoga right during ovulation and this and that. And I'm like, well, that's all well and good, but we're missing an opportunity here. Like, just because you're, in a certain part of your cycle doesn't mean that we shouldn't be, doing resistance training.
No.
No.
Well, and here's the other thing too, is women who have more regular cycles, like to the calendar, that don't have wild PMS swings, right?
Right.
Are typically healthier.
Yes.
And what leads to that is proper nutrition.
Yeah.
and proper exercise and
Yes.
daily activity movement.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you feel like you're like you can't get out of bed, then you got to take it easier.
Absolutely.
But if you feel, let's just use the word, because I think women, I've seen this over the last few weeks, bitchy.
Yeah.
Go work out.
Channel it.
Use that.
Yeah.
You're gonna get a rush of endorphins, and you're gonna feel better afterwards.
Absolutely. So here's what I like to do. I like to listen to my body, but then I also want to be very honest with my body. So yes, I'm sorry, you're feeling a little tired, you're feeling a little cranky. Well, go and do it. But like Randy said, if you're just like, dude, you can barely keep your eyes open and you have the opportunity to go lay down, please do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
All right.
And then I also know it's frustrating too, because some of you are like, I eat super clean, I exercise regularly, why do I still have terrible symptoms? Well,
I want to interject on that.
Yes, go.
Just because you've been doing something right for 6 months doesn't mean it's going to solve a year. When you've done most things wrong for decades, it takes a long time. Our bodies are very resilient, can bounce back, but you can't expect everything to be fixed overnight.
Yeah.
So, and you also can't expect, if you're putting in 50% effort, you're going to get 50% outcome. So the more work you do, the better work you do, 80-20, then all those things get better.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Yep.
Verity.
Yes. What's the difference between when you lift weights, like a low weight, high rep versus high weight, low rep?
So Verity, do you want to be a power lifter? That was very big in that little gym in Montana. All these women want to be big and power lifters. So I was like, this is weird. Just the very simple, when you lift heavy, you get stronger. When you lift higher, so when you lift heavy weight, low reps, meaning that you're fit. So that is power lifters. That is the Olympics, right?
That's power and strength.
I don't know anybody we work with that wants to lift like that or look like that.
Yeah.
Most people fall into, they want to lift in a higher 8 to 12, 8 to 15, 20 repetitions with a lower to moderate weight, because they want to look better, which typically means build muscle.
Yes.
Right?
Which then you're actually still getting stronger.
Yeah, you get stronger regardless, but one of them, we have, there's typically different muscle fibers, and you're causing damage when you're doing low reps to a certain muscle fiber. You're causing damage. So it's good. I mean, all of us need a level of strength. So a lot of times when you have an injury or an imbalance, you do need to build some strength and not just try to build the muscle.
Yeah.
So cool. Let's move on.
Yeah. Okay. Jenny, how does declining estrogen?
All right.
Oh, we could have just moved this one right into no name. So, how does declining estrogen contribute to gluteal tendinopathy? And we might want to explain what that is.
Yeah.
And what can you do about it?
Okay. So, gluteal tendinopathy, also known as GTPS, is a condition that involves pain and inflammation in the tendons of the gluteal muscles, particularly the gluteus medius and the gluteus minimus. These muscles are located on the outer side of the hip and are important for stabilizing the hip and pelvis during activities like walking, running, climbing stairs. So, injuries, her injury has probably led to this. The easiest would be when you have an injury. The hip is so complex, right? So you start compensating and other muscles have to do more work. That's probably what causes that. So in her case, but the normal causes are overuse, repetitive strain, most common in athletes, runners. Activities involve a lot of hip movement. Weak muscles, so we just talked about building strength. When your muscles are weak, you're putting more strain on your actual ligaments and tendons. So ligaments and tendons don't like to be overused. Biomechanical issues, poor posture, improper running form, differences in leg length contribute. That's actually more common than people realize. Sometimes we have one leg that's a little bit.
Now, the age-related degeneration also goes into, does decreased collagen
Well,
make
we got a
tendons
whole...
weak?
You're jumping ahead. Age-related degeneration. Tendons lose their elasticity and strength as we age, making them more prone to injury.
Yep.
So, symptoms: pain on the outer side of the hip, which can radiate down the thigh. Pain when you're lying on the affected side. Pain in hip movement, such as walking or climbing the stairs. Treatment: rest and modify activities that aggravate or cause the pain. Physical therapy, anti-inflammatory medications, which we tell you guys, like, hey, take anti-inflammatories should be used, maybe a few days, and maybe even a little higher dose, and then you try to stop it. You try to get rid of the inflammation and quit taking them. Corticosteroid injections, which tons of science, they don't really do anything. They always go away and they cause a lot of damage to the body. Now here's one that I was surprised: a shockwave machine like we had.
Oh, yeah.
So a shockwave therapy, acoustic wave therapy, which literally is a device that it hits metal and metal. It's very, very loud, and it shoots sound waves into an area, and it has a lot of benefits for joints, muscles. Elasticity, cellulite, like tons of stuff went into this.
Some chiropractors would have that, right? And physical therapists.
Yeah, if anybody that's ever interested in that, you just Google acoustic wave therapy, shock wave therapy.
Yeah, it's neat.
Yeah. Let's see. So she wanted to know about declining estrogen levels. So real quickly, at a high level, estrogen is very protective. Bone density, that's another reason why women are more prone to arthritis, right? Once they have, perimenopausal, menopausal, most of the estrogen is gone.
Right.
So, and one of the things it mentions in here is hormone replacement therapy. Some women need to go on hormones.
Right.
But it also helps to protect ligaments and tendons and helps to make collagen go. So one of the best things you can do if you're young, the younger you are, you start taking collagen every single day right now. There's no downside. You're increasing the collagen. So your skin, your elasticity, all of your connective tissues. Okay? Decreased collagen production, which we just talked about, it will go down. Estrogen plays a key role in collagen synthesis, which is crucial for maintaining strength and elasticity of tendons. Lower estrogen levels produce lower collagen production, leading to weaker tendons, being more prone to energy, degeneration, and increasing the risk of tendinopathies. Reduce in muscle mass, which is kind of funny because most people think, testosterone, but you need a good balance of estrogen to testosterone.
Yeah, I think estrogen, for the most part, gets a pretty bad rap.
Yeah.
It's like cortisol. It gets a bad rap.
Yeah. Increased inflammation. So here's one that with some of these ones were like pregnenolone. It will help women produce more estrogen. And then the DIM product helps the right balance of estrogen.
Yeah.
So then aches and pains should get a little bit better. So, increased inflammation as we lower. And even in the brain too. Estrogen is, when bodybuilders go on all the forms of testosterone and they start taking all of the estrogen blockers, their brains don't work right. So they literally can create, and that's a precursor to creating like Alzheimer's and dementia too.
For the sake of big biceps.
Yeah.
Sad.
For the sake of getting on stage in your underwear and letting people judge you. That sounds fun.
Sounds like a dream. Sign me up.
Sounds like it's great for mental health. Fat distribution. Again, estrogen will tell body fat where to go or not go. So, and then again, number 5, which was bone density and tendon bone interface. So, a lot of what we can say on here, and we'll do with Jenny, is and some of these things, one of the guys I'm working with went through this hip issue. We got to move through the pain a little bit to find out if it's making it worse or does it just hurt, because sometimes moving through full ranges of motion. Anybody that's ever had an injury and you do physical therapy, it hurts when you're doing it. So, but if we can get things stronger, around where the problem is, sometimes it goes away.
Yeah.
So, yeah, hopefully that answers her question.
I think that was very detailed, Randy.
It was a very detailed question.
Yeah. Well, Jenny's a thinker. Travis, arthritis, anti-aging solutions. Bum, bum, bum.
So many words there.
That's word salad, Travis.
Arthritis is, if you're actually diagnosed with it, a lot of times it is an autoimmune disease, but it can also be caused from other autoimmune diseases, right? So celiac disease. If you're celiac your whole life, your gut and your GI tract does not absorb things properly, which will lead to lower bone density. So one of the biggest things with it is arthritis is an inflammatory disease. So doing things, oh wow, I don't know if you guys heard that, big crack of thunder here. Mitigating, getting rid of inflammation. So alcohol, sugar, anything that's kind of spiking insulin, all going to be inflammatory. So we want to mitigate those things. Processed foods, all very inflammatory.
Yes. And
there's a difference between causing inflammation in your gut and then inflammation in your joints.
Yes, and then on an exercise...
And being properly hydrated.
And resistance training and walking.
Lots of walking.
Really good for arthritis.
There's actually a study out, and arthritis will typically lead to bone mineral and bone density loss. Like, they did a study with women and jump rope, and it produced, they actually were able to build more bone density in menopause, post-menopause.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
Doing things, but then again, for Travis too, is when you have to be very careful with your workouts, because all workouts cause a level of inflammation.
Right.
It's part of the process.
It's a short.
Yeah.
And then in the long term, very acute, and then the long-term benefits are priceless.
So it's all managing the things our bodies don't like, and it takes a little bit of time. So
yeah. Okay.
So Travis, control your insulin, control insulin blood sugar. We just mitigate all things that are very inflammatory going into our body. And that's a key for anti-aging as well. Inflammation is horrible. Inflammation is horrible for aging.
Terrible for it.
Terrible.
Okay, dokie.
Let's go, because we're getting long here. Let's go through these next ones.
History of fiber recommendations and what humans actually need to consume for health and longevity. Seems like there are two extreme camps on this issue. So to sum that up, Caitlin wants to know, do we need fiber?
Well, I'm going to reduce it. I'm like, so what she's saying is people are tribal, right? The world is more and more tribal. Vegan, carnivore. There's the no fiber camps, which typically are the carnivore side of things, and then there's the vegan side of things, where they're like, you must eat like 1 million grams of fiber a day to be healthy. There's not a good answer on this. There's not any good science. Like most medical, like the studies that get cited, the problem with them is they're not the healthy user bias, which means people that just would eat more fiber are probably doing 10 more things that are healthy. Specifically, not smoking, not drinking, and not using drugs.
We've talked about that, yeah.
So I think some fiber in moderation is probably good for you. For me, I don't tolerate fiber very well. It messes with my stomach.
I was going to say that. Like, I think it's one of those things where it's like, how do you feel?
I believe, and this is my personal belief, your ancestry dictates a lot of what your diet should look like. I am mainly European, Northern European. Northern Europeans, think Vikings, they only had a few months out of the year where they could probably get fibrous things. Other than that, it's literally dairy and meat and fish.
Right.
Some fermented.
You feel so much better eating like
so
that.
when I eat, but conversely, cold places, berries will grow for a few months out of the year.
Yes.
The ideal diet for me seems to be all the meat I want, the dairy, the eggs, and then with a sprinkle of berries.
Yeah.
So there are plenty of people, the Inuits, or Canadians call them First Nations people, up there where there's no sunshine and there nothing grows. They live off of meat, polar bear, and whale blubber. They didn't have any fiber in their diets forever.
Yeah.
Those people were extremely healthy, had no health problems until they started taking on Western, like alcohol specifically. So there's your ancestry plays a huge role in that. There's not really a good answer other than you find out what works for you and what doesn't. And if you eat a big fibrous meal and then you have diarrhea, that right afterwards,
major bloating,
or bloating, brain fog, or even the next morning, you can see changes in digestion. That's telling you you're probably not okay.
Yeah.
And regardless of what the vegan doctors want to tell you, you shouldn't be pooping 7 times a day and farting and stinking up the place.
And on that note, I have a call with a client.
Cool.
So you're going to finish.
I will finish these last couple.
So guys, it's been wonderful. Do I just pop this off? All right. Love you all. Carry on. Toodaloo.
And we will turn off your mic. All right. So real quick, Kim, when is it best to eat the majority of your carbs? There is not a good reason to eat carbohydrates in the morning. You should be eating your carbs probably a moderate amount with lunch and then dinner. So, and the second part of your question, in the morning for energy or carbs at night. So again, eating carbs for energy is, that's kind of a fallacy depending on, unless you're an athlete. So we don't even really need carbohydrates like we've been told. So you can, Jess and I, we eat a majority of our carbohydrates later in the day, and it really does help with sleep. But again, some people are fine with them just at lunchtime and a tiny little amount at nighttime. So again, you kind of have to play around with what works for you. What I would say is you just do not eat. There's no reason to have carbs at breakfast at all. We do not need to increase our blood sugar and our insulin first thing in the morning. You're making yourself hungry for the rest of the day. And again, you're increasing blood sugar and insulin. So no reason to do that. Let's see here. So if you want to get the best CoQ10 supplement is beef heart. So if you want to get the beef liver, beef heart, actually all beef organs are the most bioavailable forms of these. So if you need iron, which most women typically have a little bit of problems, they're low in iron, you could have a little bit of beef liver or a beef liver supplement. The same thing too. Beef heart is one of the highest things in CoQ10. Let's see, Alex. The history of women's exercise. I wanted Jess to talk about this one because she did some of these funny workouts when she was young. I remember I think the 80s is when women's fitness in the gym, because you're asking about the gym, became big. Now, before that, you're mentioning in the 50s, they had those little, those machines. So all of those shaking machines, they said they were good for cellulite. I don't really know if that's the case. It might have just been great marketing. But vibration is actually really good. It does things down at a DNA level. It increases flexibility. There's fitness conventions that I used to go to where you take somebody very, just inflexible, can't bend down, and typically guys, big muscle guys, you can't bend down and touch your toes. Put them on one of these vibration platforms for 3-4 minutes. Maybe have them couple do a little squats, and within 3 minutes they're able to put their palms on the floor like a yogi. So there is benefits to it. It's probably overplayed, and definitely don't want to spend any money on that. And yeah, it is relaxing, but it also not. Some people, it messes with their equilibrium. So it's one of those things too. It's like, well, you could try it and see how it affects you and you feel better. Or there's people that get on these things and then they feel dizzy or, seasick for the rest of the day. But yeah, it's pretty funny how those machines started into women's gyms and fitness. They were those big bands and they would put them across their butt and shake them. Travis, I've heard you can only have so much protein at once, but I've also heard that isn't true. So that's actually not true. That was what we were told, is like 30-35 grams of protein would be all you could absorb in one sitting. So most of the protein supplement companies went out there and all of their protein shakes are like 25 to 35 grams of protein. So it's actually not true. There's been follow-up studies, and they took people, they did like, 20 grams of protein, 40 grams of protein, and then 100. So they consumed all of those different amounts. The people that ate, the more protein you eat, sometimes it's a little slower increase in your protein synthesis, but it was also increased for like the next 24 hours. So and here's the other thing, as we age, our bodies become less efficient at protein synthesis, right? So you need to eat, if we're in I just say, if you're in your 30s, you need to be eating, 30, 35 grams of protein with each meal. If you're in your 40s, you should probably be eating 40 to 50, so on and so on and so on. Your body does not absorb that protein as well as it did when we were younger. They look at young kids, maybe teenagers, they can eat like, 15 grams of protein, and that's all they need in one sitting. So our bodies just become less efficient as we age. All right, guys, that wraps it up. Like Jess said, we'll get back to doing these, sometimes depending on the amount of questions, we'll do them every 2 weeks. If there's a lot of questions, we'll do them once a week. So we appreciate you guys, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.